What is stated in that letter emanates from you. That's right. Do you understand? It's your instructions that's in that letter that you'd be arrested.
A few moments later.
That this so-called hit, the threat from the police to assassinate you, according to your own words, their story changed. But it sounds to me like your story changed in court today, didn't it, Mr. Modack?
The judge's observation was so stark. He noted that the shooter must have known that at 14.44.49, the exact second of the murder, Kinnear was in that specific location, targeted with extreme accuracy.
And all thanks to the non-stop digital surveillance that was funded by these alleged mask payments. That level of detail testifies to extreme preparation. This wasn't a crime of opportunity.
This was a surgical strike planned using digital intelligence.
Yes. Oh, totally consistent. He's saying all these cash transfers were for, legitimate, even mundane business dealings.
Right. Debt collection, towing services, and of course the sale of actual physical face masks.
And the state's argument is that this is all just linguistic cover. That masks was actually a code word for paying for the illegal pings used to hunt Kinnear. The alleged payments we're discussing happened between August and September of 2020.
Which is the exact period when Kinnear was being aggressively tracked and then ultimately killed.
Exactly, the precise window.
And the most direct, maybe the most damning receipt,
the
starting point for the prosecution, is that our $47,500 transfer. This money flowed directly from an account linked to Modack's enterprises, the Empire account, and it went straight into the hands of his co-accused, Zane Kilian.
Well, this is what's so fascinating. Kilian, the guy who received the money, the alleged pingmaster, he confirmed that when references like masks appeared on these payments, that was the code word.
The code word for what?
For pinging, for the illegal tracking operation.
Wow.
Modack looked at the court and explicitly stated that Kilian, his co-accused in this massive murder trial, was a liar. He claimed that Morgan owed him money for those mysterious masks he was supposedly selling. Meanwhile, Modack owed Kilian $20,000 for debt collection services.
So to save a step?
A shortcut, as he put it. He just told Morgan to pay Kilian directly, settling both debts at once.
I can almost hear the eye rolls in the courtroom. It's just too neat.
It is.
Yeah. Today, we're taking you right inside the Western Cape High Court.
Into a really high-stakes, very pressurized environment.
And our mission here is to unpack the central financial mystery that's driving the murder trial of anti-gang unit detective Lt-Col Kinnear.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be tracking the money trail, the one that allegedly connects the accused, Nafiz Modack, directly to the hit.
Right. This is a deep dive into dollars and, well, some very specific details. The state's case really hinges on an idea that Modack financed the illegal tracking.
The pinging.
Exactly. The constant digital surveillance that, they argue, led right to Kinnear's execution in 2020. And the key evidence is cash and just one single cryptic word, masks.
And that one word is really the entire premise for the prosecution, isn't it?
Yeah.
It creates this incredible courtroom drama.
It does.
Because you have Modack who's presenting this supremely confident, consistent story.
Oh, totally consistent. He's saying all these cash transfers were for, legitimate, even mundane business dealings.
Right. Debt collection, towing services, and of course the sale of actual physical face masks.
And the state's argument is that this is all just linguistic cover. That masks was actually a code word for paying for the illegal pings used to hunt Kinnear.
So it's a clash between a master of denial and really a mountain of digital evidence.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Is the money for literal face coverings, like Modack claims, or is it the invoice for a dead man walking? Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the specifics of the money flow.
We have to start with the timeline. I mean, that's crucial. The state argues it aligns with the crime window almost too perfectly to be a coincidence.
Okay, so when are we talking about?
The alleged payments we're discussing happened between August and September of 2020.
which is the exact period when Kinnear was being aggressively tracked and then ultimately killed.
Exactly, the precise window.
And the most direct, maybe the most damning receipt,
Yeah.
the starting point for the prosecution, is that our 47,500 transfer. This money flowed directly from an account linked to Modack's Enterprises, the Empire account, and it went straight into the hands of his co-accused, Zane Kilian.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, Kilian is the man the state says was the ping master.
The tech guy.
He's the tech guy who was allegedly pulling the trigger on the surveillance operation.
So from a prosecutor's point of view, that R47,500 transfer is pretty much the smoking gun.
It is. It's a direct financial link between the alleged planner and the alleged, well, executioner of the surveillance. And it happens right during the operational phase. That receipt is absolutely critical.
So when Modack was confronted with this specific, very large payment in court, he didn't even waver. But this is where his defense gets interesting.
Yeah.
He didn't offer one explanation. He offered three. Three distinct, innocent-sounding, and frankly, slightly contradictory explanations for that R47,500.
Exactly. He argued it was for A, debt collection services that he hired Kilian for.
Okay.
B, a transaction related to towing a vehicle.
A completely separate thing.
Completely separate. And C, the sale of literal face masks.
Wait a minute. Presenting three simultaneous excuses for one transaction that feels less like accounting and more like, I don't know, calculated confusion.
Well, yes.
If it was for towing, why even mention masks? Why not just stick to the strongest, most verifiable story?
That is precisely the conclusion the state wants the court to draw. It's a classic legal strategy, intentional obfuscation.
Right.
If you offer a judge three different, seemingly plausible, mundane explanations, you don't need them to believe any single one of them completely.
You just need them to think the state hasn't disproven all of them.
You only need them to believe the state hasn't proven that none of them are true. You're just trying to plant that one tiny seed of reasonable doubt.
So the complexity is the defense itself. He's basically arguing, look, I'm a busy businessman, these transactions are messy, but they're all innocent. It's the state that's trying to criminalize normal business.
Precisely. A chaotic but legitimate entrepreneur. But, and this is a huge but, this is where that whole denial strategy just slams into a brick wall.
And a brick wall provided by his own co-accused.
Exactly.
This is where it gets really interesting, because the presiding judge, Judge Robert Henney, he stepped in and basically threw the entire defense explanation into chaos.
The judge made a really key intervention here. He pointed out that Modack's co-accused, Zane Kilian, had already made a formal, legally binding admission to the court.
These are the 220s, right?
That's right. In South African criminal law, a 220 admission is a formal admission of facts that, unless it's retracted, the court must accept as true.
So what did Kilian's formal admission actually state?
Well, this is what's so fascinating. Kilian, the guy who received the money, the alleged ping master, he confirmed that when references like masks appeared on these payments, that was the code word.
The code word for what?
For pinging, for the illegal tracking operation.
Wow. That is a seismic legal event.
It's huge.
If the guy receiving the cash confirms the code word means surveillance, then the state's case connecting the money to the crime, it just got exponentially stronger.
It's no longer just the prosecutor's theory. It's an admission from inside the defense camp itself.
It connects the dots perfectly. The money flows from Modack to Kilian. The reference is masks.
And Kilian, in his 220 admission, says masks means pinging. It turns Modack's whole defense, that he was just selling face coverings, from something that was merely suspicious into a direct contradiction of sworn, admitted evidence.
But true to form, Modack didn't cave.
Not at all.
When he was confronted with this contradiction from his own alleged accomplice, he just doubled down. He stuck to his original story.
Refused to budge on the mask sales explanation. And this is the moment of peak courtroom drama. Modack looked at the court and explicitly stated that Kilian, his co-accused in this massive murder trial, was a liar.
Which raises an incredibly important question for the court. Why are the co-accused on completely different pages on what is arguably the most critical piece of evidence, the meaning of that financial reference?
It suggests a fundamental crack in their defense. You see two strategic possibilities here.
Okay.
One, Kilian is trying to save himself. He's cooperating on the meaning of the payment, admitting to the pinging to maybe mitigate his own role, but confirming the link back to Modack.
And the second possibility, too.
Two, Modack is just so confident in his ability to weave this narrative of innocence that he's willing to publicly sacrifice his alleged accomplice's credibility.
Banking on the idea that if he just keeps repeating his story, the court will eventually find a sliver of reasonable doubt.
It seems like a tremendously risky move, burning a bridge right there in front of the judge. But it fits the profile of someone executing a long con strategy. Stick to the lie, no matter the cost to anyone else.
Okay, let's move from that huge payment to the one the prosecution seemed to find the most suspicious, at least from a money laundering perspective.
The R20,000 transaction. This was the smaller payment made on September 2, 2020. And what's important here is that the money didn't come directly from Modack's main Empire account.
Where did it come from?
It came from Ricky Holdings, another entity linked to the organization, via a third co-accused, Ricardo Morgan, and then finally it went to Kilian.
So a three-way flow.
Yeah.
And Modack confirmed he greenlit the whole thing.
Yes, he did.
So he had to justify this shortcut, as he called it. Why the extra steps?
Well, Modack's explanation was a textbook example of convoluted but somehow mundane accounting.
Oh, go on.
He claimed that Morgan owed him money for those mysterious masks he was supposedly selling. Meanwhile, Modack owed Kilian R20,000 for debt collection services.
So to save a step?
A shortcut, as he put it, he just told Morgan to pay Kilian directly, settling both debts at once.
I can almost hear the eye rolls in the courtroom. It's just too neat.
It is.
You have two separate debts, both for exactly R20,000, involving three different people, and they're settled with one direct payment that conveniently hides Modack's name on the transaction record.
Exactly. And the state prosecutor, Gregory Wolmarans, he seized on this. He didn't need to shout. He just used pure sarcasm to highlight how absurd the explanation was.
And his words were so sharp, he basically said, instead of you getting your money from Morgan and then paying Kilian, you took a shortcut. And it just so happened that Morgan owed you R20,000 and you owed Kilian R20,000. It all worked out lovely.
That word, lovely, that's the prosecution's way of saying, this isn't normal business practice. This is a clear attempt to obscure the source and destination of criminal funds.
It's classic money laundering 101, isn't it? Breaking the paper trail.
By involving an intermediary like Morgan, they broke the direct trail between Modack and the alleged hit tracker.
And the state isn't just relying on these financial gymnastics. They're linking this money directly to the physical movements of the hit team on the ground.
Yes, they're painting a much more comprehensive picture of criminal coordination. The state alleges that Kilian wasn't just sitting in an office pinging a phone, he was Bymekaar.
Which means what exactly?
It's a term that roughly translates to linked up, or in close operational contact.
With the actual shooter.
With the actual shooter, during not one, but two alleged attacks. The one on lawyer William Booth and the fatal hit on Kinnear.
That significantly upgrades Kilian's role, doesn't it? From just a hired tech guy to an active participant in the murder itself.
He becomes the digital eye for the physical hand.
And what was Modack's response to that?
Here, he just reverted to his distancing strategy. When he was pressed on Kilian's movements, Modack predictably tried to deflect. He just said, only Kilian could answer to that.
He's trying to build a firewall. I dealt with the money for masks and debt collection, but I was totally unaware of where Kilian was or who he was talking to.
Yes, but the state argues that paying nearly R70,000 to the man who is then proven to be closely linked to the shooter is paying for the murder.
You paid for the tracking, and the tracking enabled the kill.
The precise kill. And it's that sheer precision that Judge Henney kept coming back to. He emphasized the relentless, almost obsessive nature of the surveillance.
This is the chilling detail that really crystallizes the state's case.
Absolutely. Judge Henney highlighted that the pinging wasn't just occasional. It was excessive, constant, and it went right up to the very minute of the execution.
The judge's observation was so stark. He noted that the shooter must have known that at 14.44.49, the exact second of the murder Kinnear was in that specific location, targeted with extreme accuracy.
And all thanks to the non-stop digital surveillance that was funded by these alleged mask payments. That level of detail testifies to extreme preparation. This wasn't a crime of opportunity.
This was a surgical strike planned using digital intelligence.
Yes, and the relentless data stream, paid for by the funds Modack admits he greenlit, becomes maybe the most powerful witness for the prosecution.
So if we step back and look at the whole strategic picture, we can start to understand Modack's calculated confidence, even against all this evidence.
So what does this all mean for the trial?
It means Modack's entire legal strategy depends on him being absolutely consistent, no matter how unbelievable his story sounds.
Or how many times his co-accused contradicts him.
Exactly. His goal is just singularly focused. Manufacture enough confusion, or reasonable doubt to escape conviction.
His three excuses for the R47,500, his convoluted shortcut for the R20,000, and his bold denial of Kilian's admission. They're all interconnected parts of that attempt to sow doubt.
He's trying to force the court to accept that these seemingly innocent business deals could have happened, and therefore the prosecution has failed to prove that the payments were only for murder tracking.
But that calculated defense is up against an equally calculated case by the state.
A detailed financial paper trail, a critical timeline, the physical link between the tracker and the shooter.
And the devastating admission from Kilian himself that masks meant P-Inky.
It's not just a contest of testimony, is it? It's a contest of narrative plausibility versus objective, precise data.
The state has built a mountain of digital and financial evidence, and Modack is trying to dismantle that mountain with a shovel labeled plausible deniability. His confidence is remarkable, but the paper trail is incredibly specific.
This whole trial is just a profound study in how sophisticated criminal operations try to use legitimate-sounding business jargon to cover up the darkest deeds.
It is. The core tension is that undeniable cash trail and coded language versus Modack's persistent narrative of mundane business.
So you're left with this final thought. Given that the money flowed directly to the alleged tracker and that his co-accused, Zane Kilian, confirmed under oath that masks meant pinging, how high must the bar be for Modack's defense to actually convince the court his shortcut was just innocent business and not an elaborate scheme to facilitate a planned execution?
You're left to wonder if any explanation, however outlandish, can stand up against a digital record that tracked a victim down to the second, a question the Western Cape High Court will continue to grapple with.
We appreciate you joining us for this deep dive into the financial strategy behind one of South Africa's highest-profile murder trials. We will keep tracking the receipts on this story.